Yeah. Yeah. All right, we are live on YouTube. How's everyone doing today? It's a beautiful day here in Redwood City, California. Excuse me. It's about 68 degrees, a slight breeze, and once again, I'm out and about on another walk with purpose, episode number 769. And today I have probably one of my most favorite topics to discuss. And probably one of the most important topics that any human being should learn to understand. This topic is what defines us as men and women. And in this modern world, where, we have the LGBTQ, this comes into play in gay and lesbian relationships as well, because there's always one side of a gay or lesbian relationship that's more masculine than the other. There has to be masculine and feminine energy in any type of relationship for there to be sexual polarity. And I'll share more about that in just a little bit here. But I gotta show you this. Look at this. This is almost picture perfect. If I had my Sony a6400 out here, I would take a picture of this right now. The sun glistening off the water. Look at that. If I didn't have my Ray-Bans on, I'd be blind right now. I mean, I'm almost getting blinded even with my Ray-Bans on, but it's better than not having them on. Put it to you that way. Hope you're all having a great day. If you missed my earlier Driving with Purpose stream, check it out if you'd like. If you need a little more Eli content. I had to go take a drive almost 30 minutes away to refill one of Don's medications at the same place I had to initially get it last month, because it's a hard to find medication and it's a crucial one for her. It's an appetite stimulant, and it also helps with nausea, and she struggles with nausea pretty badly. And before that, I got up. Excuse me. I'm sorry. My allergies are clearing up right now. I just took my Allerfex, which is the Costco generic version for Allegra. Right before I came out here on the trail, so everything's breaking down and clearing up, so I'm sorry about that if I clear my throat. And it's been one of those days, Don and I had a great conversation. We also did some more cleaning. I've been doing some deep cleaning around the house, and we hadn't done the bathroom in a while. It's important to keep your bathroom nice and clean. I did the floors of the bathroom today with the new Bissell. And now I ordered some stuff because my other stuff is pretty old and outdated. I got some new stuff to clean the shower tub, the tile around it, and the glass, the shower glass. And folks, if you don't already know this, one of the best ways to clean shower glass and tile and stuff is with scrubbing bubbles. And today, Amazon has a Prime Day deal on scrubbing bubbles. I forgot what the version is that I got. It's different than the one I normally get. It's like less than $5 for a bottle, so I got 3. Between that, using a squeegee, you want to definitely, use scrubbing bubbles to break down the soap scum on the shower glass door and the shower. And if you have a glass around your shower, same thing. Use scrubbing bubbles to break down the soap scum, and then get a cheap squeegee for like $10 on Amazon and squeegee it clean. Then I also ordered this replacement. It's like a tile grout cleaner. It's like a bigger toothbrush, but a stronger, more, I wouldn't say abrasive because it won't scratch, but it'll definitely clean the grout, the hard to get stuff in the corners of your shower and bathtub. So, I spent today starting to clean the bathroom and then buying some parts, buying some stuff, some tools and other stuff. We have, Don and I have racks on the side of our shower to hold our, bars of soap and cleansers and, shampoo, conditioner, etc. And they use strong adhesive, and one of them fell. It lost its adhesive. So I went to go find some replacement adhesives, and they actually had them. And I ordered some replacement adhesives for the shelving in the shower and tub. So it's been one of those days, productive day. I'm a little tired, but hey, I'm back out here on another walk, and we're gonna get to the topic here in just a second. Excuse me. Thank you so much to the 23 people that are here. So let's just go ahead and get right to it. Today we're going to be discussing, what is masculinity and femininity, or, what embodies masculinity and femininity in 2024, and has it changed? One more time, we're going to be discussing what embodies masculinity and femininity in 2024, and has it changed? And when I say has it changed, has masculinity and femininity changed since women have been liberated, since the days of traditionalism have pretty much ended, right? Now, some people still believe in traditionalism. Some people do what I do. Don and I still believe in it, but Don is open to working, and The only reason why she's not working right now is due to her medical condition. But Don and I are like a hybrid. We're a team. We both have no problem working, and we both have no problem doing the household chores and other responsibilities around the house. Back in the days of traditionalism, it was known that the man would go to work and the woman would take care of the house and do all the household chores. Nowadays, it's different. I honestly feel the best way to do it is the way that that I just mentioned. Equally share in the household responsibilities. If we're going to say that women are truly liberated and it's truly 50-50, then women should have no problem doing some things that only once men used to do. That includes working and other stuff, which is what women wanted anyway, so that's no problem. And on the flip side, men should have no problem doing dishes, mopping floors, vacuuming, sweeping, right? Cleaning the toilet, right? Cooking dinner, washing the dishes, right? And pretty much nowadays, everything is automated. You've got dishwashers, and you've got Bissell cleaners, floor cleaners, and stuff like that, like I've been talking about. It's actually a lot easier to keep your house clean nowadays. Now, don't get me wrong, even with the machines, it still takes work to work the machines, but it is much easier than it was. And the products we have to keep our homes disinfected and sanitary and all that is incredible, right? What's going on, ODN? How are you doing, man? Welcome to the show. It's great to see you here. Thank you so much for being here. Oops, give me a second. Now, real masculinity and real femininity has not changed by definition. But men and women have changed in the ways they show up in this modern world. So let me say that one more time. And I've talked about this topic many times in the past. And I felt now was the right time to do it again. But with the knowledge I've learned over the last 6+ years that I've been doing this on YouTube as a coach, and I've I've made some mistakes and stuff, and I've presented some things that came off differently than I intended to, and now I have a lot more experience to much better clearly state my thoughts, right? And I'll start off by saying this is not a bash fest on women or men. The information I'm sharing here, I tell you folks, if you apply these principles as a man and a woman, they do work. Some women will say, Eli, your theories are wrong about what you're saying. Well, if I did the opposite of what I'm preaching, if you're saying my theories are wrong and you'd prefer me to do the opposite, if any man did the opposite to you, you'd be turned off by that man. You'd call him a sissy for not standing up for himself. You'd lose respect for him and wouldn't give him the time of day. So this is the funny thing. When I talk about this topic, it's not to bash men or women. It's to basically talk about what embodies masculinity and what embodies femininity and what attracts men to women and what attracts women to men. And for gay and lesbian relationships, it's a similar thing, like I said earlier, because there's always a more masculine and more feminine partner in any type of relationship, whether it's straight, gay, or lesbian, right? Or otherwise, right? Okay? But I'm going to present this, more to the heterosexual audience because that's my primary audience. No disrespect to anyone else, everyone equally. And you can choose to be who you want to be. Some people say, hey, it's not a choice, it's just who I am. Hey, if that's who you are, God bless you, and I love you too. Love you like family, like a close friend, right? But yeah, back in the days of traditionalism, men behaved more like men and women behaved more like women. But the truth of the matter is, the true definition of masculinity and femininity is best defined by going back 55, 60, 70 years ago, before women were liberated, and when traditionalism still existed, when men were the providers and the protectors. Now men still do protect, and in some cases they do provide, but women can provide. In some cases nowadays, women like there are some big women out there that are like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and they can protect you too, but without disrespect intended, nothing wrong with a woman wanting to do that, but that embodies more masculine energy. That's a woman that is behaving more masculine than feminine. Doesn't mean that she's a man, it just means she's a woman that's exuding more masculine energy than feminine energy. And keep that in mind because, again, attraction is a must and not a choice when it comes to relationships, right? And if there's no sexual polarity between the man and the woman, I mean, it's not going to work out. And this is why relationships fail. This is why there are men out there that have struggles even getting one date, right? Because they don't understand what's attractive to women, right? And also, a lot of men don't understand that a lot of their behaviors nowadays comes off more submissive than dominant. Now, when I say dominant, I don't mean a violent person. Men are supposed to be more dominant than women, biologically. And women, biologically, are supposed to be more submissive. Nowadays, because of feminism, women will challenge that. And I get it. And listen, there's nothing wrong with you ladies doing whatever you want to do nowadays. Just understand some of the things you do exude more masculine energy than feminine energy, and that's going to turn off a lot of guys that are very masculine and good men and just want a sweet, loving, more submissive type of woman. Doesn't mean we want a woman that's submissive 24/7, but it also doesn't mean we want a woman that wants to control everything and act more manly. We're already a man. We don't need another man in our relationship. Right? And again, I'm saying this regarding heterosexual relationships. Right? In gay and lesbian relationships, okay, there's a masculine and a feminine one. You only need one masculine person in that relationship and one feminine one. If you have two masculines or two feminines in any relationship, there's no sexual tension, no sexual polarity. It's just not going to work. And if you think I'm not making sense, try it out for yourself and see what happens. I'm going to come do a Walking with Purpose stream with you here in a couple of months. That's great, dude. Wonderful. It's all good, man. If you're going to do that, it'd be nice to give me a heads up. I typically would prefer for people to not show up unannounced, but hey, you do you, man. Okay? So what embodies masculine energy in 2024? It's the same thing that embodied masculine energy 50, 60, 70 years ago. The thing is, a lot of men nowadays are just not acting masculine, right? And the same thing about femininity, right? What embodies femininity nowadays in 2024? It's the same thing that embodied femininity 50, 60, 70 years ago. It's just that a lot of women are not behaving in feminine ways. In some cases, women can't help it. In other cases, women are choosing to act more masculine than feminine, right? So in the areas, so what I'm trying to say is, what are the areas that women can't help exuding more masculine energy? Some jobs require women to exude more masculine energy than feminine energy, right? So if a woman is working a corporate job, let's say she's the head of a department, right? Let's say there's a woman manager, head of a department of a company, right? And she manages 20 employees, and she's the one that hires and fires them, right? Hiring someone, no problem, right? Firing someone is something that most women hate to do, because women at a natural and biological level don't want to hurt anyone, and that includes firing someone and costing them their job. So when a woman is in a managerial position and she has to fire someone as part of her job requirement, right? She doesn't enjoy doing that, but she does that because it's her job and it's the right thing to do. She does that because it's her job and it's the right thing to do, right? So that's an example of a woman not able to control the fact that she has to exude more masculine energy than feminine energy at that point. When it comes to work, a lot of jobs that women are doing nowadays are jobs that once only men did, right? And again, nothing wrong with women doing those jobs, and there are many women, if not most women, if not all women, are more than capable of doing any job, right? That's not the point. The point is, there are jobs out there that require more masculine energy than feminine energy to be exuded. This dude's coming on the opposite side of the trail, so I'm gonna have to go on the left side because he's walking on the left. People typically walk on the right. It's all good. That sun is right in my eye. Look at that. Now, where are women able to control exuding masculine energy or feminine energy? That's within their relationships, right? And this is what causes a big problem in relationships nowadays, is you have women that want to wear the pants in the relationship. Women want to be the man in the relationship, and let me tell you, women that exude more masculine energy in relationships and want to run the relationship and want to be the man in the relationship are not going to get the type of man they want. Because men like myself, I came across a lot of those women when I was single. Over the last 10 to 15 years, maybe 20 years. Because this whole shift of women working and behaving more masculine. This whole shift of women starting to more so work and behaving more masculine than feminine in many aspects of life didn't really start to hit us until I'd say about 15 to 20 years ago, probably 20 years ago. So for the last 20 years, in between relationships, until I met my soulmate, now that is done, I've been with her almost 3 years, I came across many women that I talked to, I met off of dating apps or dating sites. Even before mobile phones came out, we had dating sites on the internet, right? I would talk with them by phone, and it was like talking to another man. It was like talking to another man, yeah, because when you're a masculine man, what attracts you to a woman is her sweet, soft, and just feminine demeanor, right? We want to hear her soft voice. And we want to hear her, just talk about nice, beautiful things. Nothing wrong with talking about, it's not wrong for a woman to talk about her job for a little bit, but if she makes that the highlight of the conversation, that becomes more masculine energy, right? Tell me about your job, and then let's get to know each other. Let's talk about what do you enjoy doing for fun. Some other things I used to talk about is, hey, so how have your experiences been in your past relationships? Now, some women were offended to talk about that, but many were open to it. And I also have been open. I was also very open talking about my past relationships. I did that with Dawn and every other woman that I actually dated, right? So, when I would be on the phone with these women, basically, I was looking to get a feel if they were coming off more feminine or masculine. I could just feel it. Like, as a man, once you get into like your 30s or your mid 30s or so, you start to realize what seems right and doesn't seem right when you're talking to a woman. And you can tell when a woman is nice and sweet and being real. You can more so tell that. And when she's sounding more like a female man, right? And what I'm talking about is she's a woman, and she's a straight woman, but she's basically acting all tough like a man. There's no sweetness to her. She's not showing her sweet side. She's very heavily guarded, closed off, rough around the edges, right? That's a big turnoff for masculine men, right? So nowadays, give me a second here. So nowadays, you're seeing this happen tenfold because as women have risen up and become stronger, okay, it's created a lot of issues to where it's made our men go the opposite way. And this is with no disrespect. The divorce rate since women were liberated has now tripled to about almost 60%. More than 1 out of every 2 marriages will end up in divorce. 50 years ago, it was 20%. It was 1 out of 5. Now it's more than 1 out of 2. So, what is happening in the modern world? What started to happen as women were liberated? Okay, a lot of them were exercising their rights, and a lot of them got pregnant out of marriage, or they were married and started getting divorced because these men were like, what happened to women? Like, what happened to women? Like, what happened to femininity? These women are acting like us, and it's a big turnoff. I don't want to be with a woman that wants to act like me. It's not attractive to a masculine man for a woman to behave more masculine. And that is key, ladies. You have to understand that. You have to understand that, right? So over the last probably 40, 50 years, as the divorce rate increased, you had a lot more, broken households. You had a lot more single moms, single dads, right? And now, regarding men, let's just talk about how this has affected men. Hey, Jigwalk, how you doing? Welcome to the show, bro. Great to see you here. So now you have these little boys growing up with no dad in many cases, or with no mom, with one parent or the other. One parent had to play the role of both sides, right? So a lot of these men, millennial men, are the prime example. They're the ones that got hit the hardest with this. The millennial men, no disrespect intended, has the most amount of beta males ever. And there are a lot of beta males with the Gen Zers, but the Gen Zers are starting to turn the numbers around because a lot of people like myself and others are talking about this on the internet, and the Gen Z men are saying, we don't want to be like the millennials. We don't want to be beta. And I'm not saying all millennial men are beta. They're not, but a good amount are. Like more than 50% of millennial men are beta or exude more feminine energy most of the time than masculine energy. Now, there are some great millennial men, no disrespect intended. I'm just saying there's never been an era of more beta males than the millennial generation. And that started because when women got liberated, this is what it caused. Now, I'm not saying it's a bad thing that women got liberated. I'm just saying how it's affected us, how it's affected family dynamics, how it's affected male and female relationship dynamics and relationships and the divorce rate and all that, right? Jigwa, a lot of millennials are soft and weak. That's true. It's very true. Very true, Jigwalk. So that's what created all these beta males, right? And I try to explain to these men, and they get super triggered. These men think that, okay, if you suck up to a woman, kiss her ass, hand her everything on a pedestal, pedestalize her and this and that, blah, 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 that you're going to have a great relationship. Nope. You're going to have a woman that's going to enjoy that for a little while till it gets boring, till she realizes you're a weak, pathetic man that can't stand up to her. And when I say stand up to your woman, it's not in an abusive way. When women get emotional all the time, and women will try to get men to do ridiculous things at times. And you as a man have to call your woman out on that. You have to say, look, babe, I love you, but what you're saying is ridiculous. Why? You don't love me, you won't do this? That's what women do. Women will test you. Listen, women will test you to see how strong you are. And if you cave under pressure, you will lose, because they will lose respect for you. They will say, if I can do something stupid like this and get him to agree to it just for the sake of agreeing, then what else can I do to derail this man? What else can I do to derail his masculinity? Women want to be with a strong man. They want to be, even nowadays, even more so nowadays, you got to be a strong man because of women's lib. Women will test you, and if you're weak, if they sense any ounce of weakness they're going to get turned off. You will not get laid. They won't be with you. If you're with them in a relationship, they're going to start falling out of love with you, and eventually they will leave you. And hopefully they won't cheat on you before they leave you. I've been through all that before. We need to do a better job of helping men and women better understand masculine versus feminine energy. I think even many women nowadays are confused by it because a lot of women, they don't know the history of feminism. They don't know the reason why they're even able to work nowadays. They just, you know, they're born and raised and, okay, I got to get a job and this and that, but they don't know the history. They don't know what caused all this, right? So I think part of the problem lies in women not understanding what embodies feminine energy for them and what embodies masculine energy for men. And the thing that men and women don't understand the most, and I'll tell you this, I'll tell you, I kind of understood this in my 30s, in my mid 30s, but I did not clearly understand this until I heard several videos by another coach out here named Coach Corey Wayne. Coach Corey Wayne is one of my favorite coaches. He's a phenomenal life coach. And he's the one that talked about masculine versus feminine energy. He's the one that said, there's no sexual polarity. If a man acts more feminine and if a woman acts more masculine. We really need to do a better job of helping men and women. Ooh, what was that? We need to do a better job of helping men and women better understand masculine versus feminine energy. Got some people coming behind me. Let me see. I'm not going to go to the observation deck. Message here in just a second there, Jigwalk. I'm going to probably stop at the bench on the side and sit there. The guys behind me are probably going to go up on the observation deck, so I'm not going to go up there today and disturb them. Sit down for a few minutes. And give me a second, Jigwalk. I will read your message here in just a second. Just taking a breather for a second here. sit down, right? It's a man with this woman. All right. So Jigwalk says, my wife has a 4-year college degree and she works full time, but she still knows her place at home. Some women are exceptions and can handle work and home life correctly, but most women have no clue. That's because they're not raised to understand it. Because I don't even think their parents understand it at the level that I do and many people do nowadays. Like, I'll tell you, had it not been for YouTube and Coach Corey Wayne, and I hate to even admit it, the MGTOW men going their own way community and the men's rights activists, I know a lot of these people are some pretty vile people, but they did have some good nuggets to share. And one of the most important things that I've learned to speak on very clearly over the last 6 years is masculine versus feminine energy. Yeah, well, you know what I like, Jigwalk? Well, I don't like it, but it's funny to me that people try to find new ways to troll me, to lead me to believe that they're a real person, coming in here and saying, my mom makes more money than my dad and she bosses him around at home. Go fuck yourself. Get over yourself over the Coach Eli stuff, all right? This one group of people just, I don't know, they can't let it go. It's all good. Not a big deal. It's all good. But you make a good point there, Jigwalk. Some women are better at balancing it out than others, right? And it's also with some men. Men are just as much at fault, because here's the thing. If men are going to enable women to behave more masculine, if men are going to allow women to be the man in the relationship, and then by default that makes the man the woman in the relationship, then you truly are a fucking beta. Then, honestly, if you're a man that allows that to happen, you got to check below your waist and make sure your nuts are still intact. And I don't know how much better I can say that. That may not be the most polite thing to say, but I don't even know if there's a polite way to say something like that. That's just the truth of the matter, right? Like, I mean, guys, here's the thing. It is your choice who you want to date as much as it is a woman's choice who she wants to date, right? Just because a woman wants to date you doesn't mean you have to date her, right? And a lot of times you got to be leery of women that are throwing themselves at you, because that's not how a respectful, decent woman is going to typically come at you. Now, there are always exceptions to every rule, but for the most part, you know, a real decent woman is going to make it a little challenging for you to get a date with her, and make it a little challenging maybe to get a second date with her, right? Now, she's going to challenge you by asking you certain things, seeing how you react. Do you come off needy? Do you come off insecure? Or are you just cool and calm and you're like, hey, you know what, I think you're cool. Let's hang on and see where it goes. Let's go on a hike. Let's go do this, whatever, right? Or are you coming out and vomiting and saying, oh my God, you're so beautiful, and God, you know, God, you're everything I've been looking for and everything my heart has desired. You say that nowadays and women will eliminate you instantly. Now, that stuff might have worked in the 50s and the 40s when women were dependent on men for survival. But in this modern world, women are independent. They don't need a man for anything, and except to have kids, and even then they can go to sperm bank. But for the most part, guys, you got to understand. Like nowadays, men are more expendable. Men were not expendable back in those days. Men were the ones that women depended on. Now, it should still kind of be that way nowadays. But it's not. It's really not. And here's the funny thing. Even though most women know that they do need men for certain things, and then they get with a man that does those certain things for them and takes care of them, at the same time, women will say, man, you know, is he doing, am I letting him do too much? Like, should I be doing more of this on my own? Like women nowadays are questioning themselves regarding what their men are doing, which is normal, was more normal back in the days of traditionalism, but it's still normal today. It should be still normal for a man to be a man, right? Like women nowadays are questioning men for being men. And it's funny, a lot of women nowadays are even calling men that behave masculine toxic masculinity, right? You know why? Because a lot of these women are used to dealing with beta males that they can easily control. And then they come across a good dude that they can't control, and all he's doing is just being a decent, cool dude, not putting up with bullshit, and then they call that toxic masculinity. Hey, Gia. Gia, hello. My parents ran a business together, but my mama still took care of kids home. Her role in the business was more behind the scenes. Wonderful parents, wonderful marriage, but that rare today. You know what, Gia? That was well said. Like, God bless. I don't know if you believe in God, but whether you do or you don't, God bless you. And that's a clear example of your mom and dad working together as a team, right? That's a clear example of your mom and dad working together as a team. You know, what I've been saying for the past many years, and this is another thing that Coach Corey Wayne says, I agree with pretty much almost everything Coach Corey Wayne says, and ironically, he's a full-blown conservative Trump supporter. And I can sit here and say, you know what, Coach Corey Wayne, I don't agree with your Trump stuff. I'm not a conservative. But you know what? Besides that, I love your work. It makes sense. You're a good guy. You're very smart. And you've clearly explained things, even to a guy like me that pretty much learned a lot of the same stuff you did, but just didn't understand the verbiage. Like Coach Corey Wayne clarifies male and female relationship dynamics so clearly. And, you know, I have to say this. I do consider the guy to be somewhat of a mentor, even though I've never met him and we've never talked. But I just have that much respect for his work. Right? There's an example of me being a slight left liberal and fully respecting a full-blown conservative Trump supporter, because everything outside of his political beliefs, I think, is genius. I think he's phenomenal. So do you folks understand that you don't have to be on the same political spectrum to actually get along and learn from each other? But yeah, Gia, that's fantastic. Your mom was more behind the scenes. She probably did the accounting. She probably did stuff for the business that your father didn't want to do or didn't enjoy doing. And then your father did the other aspect. And then at the same time, your mother may have worked from home most of the time and took care of you and other brothers or sisters you may have, right? And that's fantastic. Like, that's a great team. And even my girlfriend Dawn, at times, she feels like she isn't doing enough. Like, and that's because of the feminist agenda nowadays. Dawn feels like she should be doing more. And I'm old school. I'm like, honestly, I love Dawn for who she is. I don't need Dawn going out of her way for me to be happy. Now, don't get me wrong. Dawn does a lot. Dawn does do a lot, right? She does a lot more than women used to do in the traditional days. Women used to do a lot. Dawn does even more than that. But the reason why Dawn does it is because, number one, she respects me and respects my family and her family. Like, Dawn is a respectful person. She always feels the need to contribute as much as possible to her friends and family. She doesn't want to feel like they're doing more than her. I can respect that. I mean, what is there not to respect about that? But at the same time, I think a lot of it has to do with how Dawn was raised. Dawn was raised around the feminist agenda. And I'm not going to get too much further into it because I'm not talking about her family or anything anymore. But I had to kind of give a little context where that comes from. So I think what's happened to Dawn is because of the feminist agenda, she feels like she has to just keep up with me and do as much as I do to feel like she's doing her part. And no, that's not the case. And she does enough anyway, right? Like, this whole feminist agenda thing has made women feel, like they're not doing enough, so they keep on struggling to do more when it's not even necessary for them to do more, right? That's another issue in itself. Gia says, yes, she did exactly that. All accounting at times from home, so to be with kids. My papa had to be front and center at the business. It worked very well. That's masculine energy and feminine energy. Like, a lot of women back in those days were doing the accounting. I know, and I'll just say this. Dawn's mom used to do the accounting for her dad's business. My ex-girlfriend, Dana, her dad's mom owned a business that her dad was helping his mom run. And then Dana's mom would do the accounting. Now, it's not that women can't do the manual labor. They can, but a lot of women would prefer to not do the manual labor. They would prefer to do the paperwork, the clerical work, right? Right? With no disrespect, a lot of guys will say, oh, that's women's work, right? Don't get me wrong. I prefer to get out and grind, but I also do the clerical work. And I somewhat enjoy the clerical work. I won't say I fully enjoy it, but I actually don't hate it as much as most men do, right? But yeah, a lot of women enjoy the clerical work more than the physical stuff. So that's a great team right there. You see, a married couple or a man and a woman in a relationship that can work as a team like that, that is the best dynamic, right? But at the same time, you have to respect each other as individuals, as man and woman. And you both have to understand what masculine and feminine energy is. Let me move off to the side. These people are coming back. I would agree. Teamwork. Right. Like they say, teamwork makes the dream work, right? Teamwork makes the dream work. So again, if you're a woman out there, and there are a lot of strong women out there, right? There are a lot of strong women out there that exude more masculine energy than feminine energy. Either that, or another thing I've said in the past, a lot of women in their 20s, here's what they do. They waste their prime years of fertility doing OnlyFans, right? And they're like, okay, I'm cute, I'm hot, I'm going to use my 20s and make $500,000 or $1 million in some cases showing my naked body to thirsty beta males on the internet, right? Right? And then next thing you know, they're in their early 30s and they're struggling to find a man that they want to be with. Because when good men find out that, they've shown their goods to the whole world for money for the last 10 years, no good man wants to be with someone like that, right? And see, those women that decide to do that type of work, that's up to them what they want to do. If they want to do that type of work as an easy payday, it's going to have a short shelf life, and that money, no matter how much you make, is going to go really fast. Because when you're making that amount of money, you're spending a lot more money, right? A lot of those women will reach their, early 30s, stop doing OnlyFans because now the same guys are paying younger women for the same thing that they were being paid for initially. So these women now are no longer doing OnlyFans. Now they want to settle down. Now their money starts to stretch thin. And any other job that they do isn't paying them anywhere nearly what they were making. So, now they're really trying to find a man. And again, no man really wants them, at least no decent man, confident masculine alpha man wants them because they've sold their body and shown their goods on the internet for the last 10 years, right? See, those types of women there are exuding, in my opinion, even though they're showing their feminine goods to beta males, they're more business women. They're exuding more masculine energy than feminine energy, right? There a lot of women are making choices early on in life that's affecting them from getting what they really want. Because at the end of the day, there's not a person on the planet, male or female, that doesn't want to find true love and settle down. And this typically starts to happen late 20s, early 30s. Some people settle down a little earlier, but typically late 20s, early 30s is when people really want to start to settle down, or really want to start to try and settle down. And a lot of times they look back and they're like, oh shit, I wish I wouldn't have done OnlyFans. I wish I would not have made those mistakes. NCS Queen is saying, you are so right about this. What's up? More specific, NCS Queen. Jigwalk, any man that pays women on the internet is not a real man at all. Yeah, they're a beta male. It is quite warm there. It looks beautiful. It's about 65 degrees right now, 66 degrees. It was about 68 when I got on the trail about an hour ago. We are at 59 minutes, almost 60 minutes, almost 1 hour. Folks, please smash the thumbs up and please share this out. Revelations, what's up, bro? How's it going? Gia says, it is interesting to think before the internet, men would buy the nude magazines. LOL. Well, yeah, that's what we did. We used to get the Playboys, right? Women would get the Playgirls, right? There was Playgirl for women that had nude men in there, and there's Playboy for men that had nude women in there. But if you wanted more of the graphic stuff, you would get Hustler. Remember Hustler magazine? There was Playboy, and then there was Hustler. And Hustler had some more more intriguing stuff. Yeah, back in those days, Gia, it was hard because the internet wasn't around. We couldn't like get porn on demand and nudes on demand, right? So like I remember I would get porn videos from my older friends. Back in those days, it was about duplicating VHS video cassette tapes, right? On your VCR, you could duplicate, tapes easily, right? So I had an older friend of mine that would duplicate porns, and then he would sell them to me for like 15 or 20 bucks a piece. I had a paper route back then. I'd make $100 a month. So every so often I'd buy a porn from him. And my brother and I had our own VCRs in our rooms growing up. So our parents never knew about the porn. Well, at least I think they didn't know. I'm sure they knew when our rooms had the door closed that, hey, there's other stuff that we're doing, right, that we don't want to talk about. Let's see here. NCS Queen, you are right about women not pregnant is important. Well, yeah, the thing is, that's another good point there, NCS Queen. We've talked about it before. We'll say it again. Women are prioritizing work over relationships. Women are more career focused than family focused. And at least that's, what's put into their head when they're in their teens and early to mid 20s, maybe even up until their late 20s. Then a lot of women, they get the career job, they get this and that, right? They're making good money, but they don't have what they really want. Every woman wants companionship. And every woman, look, there are women that say, "Oh, I never want to have kids." I don't buy that. It is within a woman's biology to want to have kids and reproduce. The women that don't want kids or have never had kids, it's due to other reasons. It's due to other reasons that were, forced in their head by like pop culture, maybe the feminist agenda, etc., right? Because women know how much time they have to dedicate to be successful in the corporate world and to move up. And listen, I'm all for women working and having a family and all that, but it's hard to do both. It's hard to do both. A lot of times, when men do that type of work, they're traveling, they're going out of town for a week at a time or so every now and then then the wife stays home and takes care of the kids while the husband travels out of town for work, right? Well, if you have both the man and the woman traveling out of town for work and then you have kids, right? How's that going to pan out? Like, how's that going to pan out? You're going to end up in divorce because you're never going to see each other. I've seen this happen to many people. It even happened to Dawn in her relationship, in her marriage. Her and her husband worked opposite shifts. So, they had days off together, but still, when you're married and stuff, and you're working opposite shifts, and you're not having dinner as a family every night, and being there for your kids as a family, what do you think is going to happen to them? What do you think is going to happen to your relationship? So again, no problem with women working, but the question is, can women balance their work and personal life? And from what I've seen, most women struggle with it. Not all. There are some women that can handle it. And here's the thing, even a lot of men struggle with work and personal life, and that affects their relationships too. But most men have become pretty good at balancing work and personal life. Because, back in the days of traditionalism, men were the ones that were providing. They had to balance it out. That's just the way family dynamics worked. When women were liberated, it artificially changed the way things, were created, in my opinion, by a higher power to be God. And again, I'm not upset that women are liberated, and I'm happy for women. I'm just saying it changed the family dynamic in the way that I believe, God meant for it to be. That's all. Again, I'm not complaining. I'm not anti-women. I'm not saying women shouldn't have equal rights. I'm just saying it changed the dynamics. I'm sure most of you can agree with that. Carol Brady never worked a job on the Brady Bunch. Yeah, well, that's how it was back then. That show was in the 70s and I believe early 80s, right? And I will tell you, women were already liberated in the mid-50s, but it really, really, really didn't start to really hit home until the early to mid-90s. When the mid-90s came around, and then by the time we hit the 2000s, that's when things really started to just change, right? But even though women were already liberated in the 70s and 80s, it was still, everything was more traditional. And that's why you would see on the Brady Bunch, the woman never worked. She took care of the house. And on top of that, they even had a housekeeper, because when you have, 9 kids or 8 kids? That's a lot of work, even for a housewife or a homemaker, that, like they call them nowadays, to do on their own, right? I want to thank you to everyone that's here. They made Claire Huxtable a lawyer. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but the Cosby Show was more of late 80s. You're looking at, the Cosby Show was almost like 10 years, about 10 or so years later than the Brady Bunch. And see, when the Cosby Show came out, that was the beginning of when women's lib was really starting to kick into high gear. Again, in the late 80s, women were already liberated for like 20, almost 25 years. But when something changes, it takes time for it to, go into effect, right? To go into actual effect, right? So the Claire Huxtable thing, yes. And Cliff Huxtable, Bill Cosby, was the doctor, right? Yeah. I used to watch the Cosby Show religiously. Peggy Bundy never worked on Married with Children, right? But when did that show come out? That show was out in the 90s, right? That show was out in the 90s. And so I believe Married with Children came out in the early 90s and lasted throughout the mid to late 90s, right? On Fox. And remember, the whole feminist agenda thing really didn't start to kick into high gear until probably more so the end of the 90s and the early 2000s, right? So, and that makes sense, right? Because you're right. The Married with Children with Alan Peg Bundy, right? She never worked. He was a shoe salesman, right? And I gotta tell you, that show, Married with Children, was one of the most, correct me if I'm wrong, Jigwalk, was one of the most real shows that depicted how living with a man and a woman living together, or married and having kids, that show is exact, like, honestly, like, Don and I are a lot like Alan Peg. We are a lot like that. It's funny, right? We crack jokes and we talk a little shit, right? About men and women. We have fun with it, right? We love each other. And listen, Al loves Peg and Peg loves Al, right? even though Al would join forces with his neighbor, what was it, Steve? And they would do that no ma'am club meeting, right? Remember the no ma'am? No ma'am. It was right about the time when feminism was really about to take off. So on Married with Children, they had Al and Steve. Steve was Al's best friend living next door, and they would always, like, talk about the no ma'am club. No ma'am, right? Like, it was like an anti-feminism type of movement, right? That was one of the most real shows that depicted how a real marriage is. Good job on that one, Fox. Archie had that house under his belt. Archie Bunker, yeah, Edith Bunker never worked on All in the Family, but that was late 70s, early 80s, though, dude. Like, look, any show before the 2000s, you saw a lot more traditionalism. Have you noticed since the millennium, right? Since the year 2000, you really don't see much of those old style sitcoms anymore. Like, remember All in the Family? That was All in the Family. Sorry. Not All in the Family. Remember Family Ties? Right? With Michael J. Fox as Alex Keaton. And Stephen Keaton. Right? And Justine Bateman. Jason Bateman's sister. I bet we've been together. I bet we've been together for 1,000,000 years. And I'll bet we'll be together for 1,000,000 more. What will we do, baby, without us? Those were the days. They don't make them like they used to, Right. Just saying the evolution of the TV wife has a lot to do with women's liberation culture evolution. Well, it was what pop culture was back then. Even though women were liberated, pop culture had not caught up with women's lib until about the late 90s or early 2000s. So all these sitcoms were depicting was what the real world pop culture life was like, and they nailed it, right? But nowadays, in the since the year 2000, we're in 2024, so almost 24 years later, we've been into a huge shift of the women's movement, the third wave of the women's movement, which technically started in the 90s, but didn't really start to hit home until the 2000s, early 2000s, right? So for the last 24 years, okay, you've seen a shift in family dynamics, in the family home. Divorce rate is up. Just everything is crazy. Why do you think you're seeing all these shows where I murdered my husband, I murdered my wife? Like I tell you, This era, the 2000s, like created like true crime, like made true crime very popular. And I like some true crime. I like Discovery ID channel. The ID channel, Investigative Discovery, used to be called Court TV back in the day. Same channel, right? The era of the 2000s made the ID channel because primarily what is done on the ID, Investigative Discovery channel, solving murders over husbands and wives and stuff, right? In other cases it's other people, but a lot of the murders have to do with the husband killing the wife or the wife killing the husband. What about the show Wives with Knives, right? On Investigative Discovery, right? Wives with Knives. Right? And so many other shows regarding, how one side of the couple killed the other side. I mean that's big. I hate to say it. I don't want to say it, but it's true. It's become pop culture. Jigwalk, remember that show, Who's the Boss, when they made Tony Danza the housekeeper? Yes. So yeah, and next thing you know, he ends up getting married to Angela as boss. Yeah, Who's the Boss, I believe, came out in the late 80s. It was the late 80s. Because I remember, give me a second here, I'm passing by someone. I remember I was madly in love with Alyssa Milano, Samantha Maselli. I wanted to bang Alyssa Milano back then. But as she got older, even if I had the chance to be with her in a relationship and bang her, I wouldn't want to be with her. Alyssa Milano became way too weird. She became really weird. She became like this really weird believer of stuff, and she just got weird on me, right? But when she was younger, she had a friend on the show named Marcy. And Marcy was played by Nicole Eggert. Remember Nicole Eggert? She was on Baywatch with David Hasselhoff. Right? And I ended up really like wanting to bang Nicole Eggert more than Alyssa Milano. Nicole Eggert was, wow, I would watch Who's the Boss hoping that Nicole Eggert would make another special appearance. And then Nicole Eggert had a prominent role in Baywatch. Now it's like, oh, well, here I am. Oh, Baywatch was fantastic. Tell me you enjoyed Baywatch. Nicole Eggert was on Charles in Charge. That's right. Nicole Eggert was on Charles in Charge. The new boy in the neighborhood lives down the street and is understood. He's there just to take good care of me, just like he's one of the family. Charles in charge of our days and our nights. Right. And this is the next line. It's great. Charles in charge of our wrongs and our rights. I want Charles in charge of me. That's right. You were right about that. I forgot about Charles in Charge with Scott Baio. Remember Scott Baio? Dude, how old are you, Jigwalk? You must be around your late 40s or early 50s or so, man. If you remember all this stuff like it happened yesterday, man. Scott Baio. Chachi, remember from Happy Days? He also played Chachi, right? Chachi. I am early 50s. Oh, you're like me. You're good at singing TV theme songs. No. They made Scott Baio the housekeeper. They did. Yeah, there were a few shows where they made the guy the housekeeper. No, I used to love Charles in Charge. I forgot about Charles in Charge. Yeah, it was a great show. That was a great show. I liked Three's Company. Oh yeah, Three's Company with the late John Ritter, Jack Tripper. Yeah, God rest his soul. John Ritter years ago died on the set of 8 Simple Rules for Dating My Teenage Daughter. And that was just really sad because John Ritter, I'll tell you, one of the funniest roles ever created in television sitcom history was Jack Tripper on Three's Company, played by John Ritter. Jack Tripper, man, what a and listen, what a great fucking name that was, Jack Tripper. And he would like trip over things sometimes, right? Like, what a great name, Jack Tripper. Then you had the roommates. You had Chrissy Snow, Suzanne Summers, right? And then you had Joyce DeWitt as Janet. And then later on, well, yeah, dude. Then you had Mr. Furley. You had Mr. Furley, not Mr. Furley, Mr. Roper initially. Mr. Roper. I actually like Mr. Roper better than Mr. Furley. I like Don Knotts, but Mr. Roper, Mr. Roper cracked me up. During the days, he would call Jack a Tinkerbell. That was back in the days before, we were talking about the LGBTQ openly, right? And the only reason why Mr. Roper allowed Jack to live with the 2 girls there is because Mr. Roper was convinced that Jack was gay. The girls told Mr. Roper that Jack was gay, right? So there was a party that Jack was throwing and the girls were throwing at the apartment, right? And this was my favorite episode of Three's Company. This is a great. I've shared this story before, but it's been a while, right? So the episode was called Strange Bedfellows. I remember the name of the episode was called Strange Bedfellows, right? And remember, Mr. Roper thought that Jack was gay, right? Mr. Roper came upstairs because there was a lot of noise and he was about to get upset. And next thing you know, they started giving Mr. Roper, lots to drink and stuff. Well, after the party ended, and next thing you know, in the middle of the night, Mr. Roper and Jack are in bed together, right? And then Jack thought that he was in bed with a woman instead, but he was in bed with Mr. Roper, right? So, so Jack puts his arm around Mr. Roper half asleep, not knowing that it's Mr. Roper. He thought it was a girl. Jack puts his arm around Mr. Roper, and Mr. Roper goes, "Not tonight, Helen. I got a headache," because Mr. Roper never wanted to bang his wife. Like Mrs. Roper, Helen Roper wanted to bang, and Stanley would always just never bang his wife because he was like too busy working or something or whatever, right? So Jack puts his arm around Mr. Roper, and Roper thinks he's in bed with his wife, but it was Jack. And then Roper goes to Jack and says, "Not tonight, Helen. I got a headache." And then they both look at each other. And then Roper's like, "Oh shit, I'm in bed with a gay man." And Jack is like, "Oh God, I'm in bed with Roper." Right? And then Roper's like, "We can't tell anybody about this, right? This never happened, right?" And then Jack was playing the perfect role of the gay man, just to mess with Roper. I'll tell you. And then next thing you know, many episodes down the road, Mrs. Roper ended up knowing all along that Jack was straight. Mrs. Roper didn't care that Jack lived there with 2 girls. It was only Stanley Roper. TV shows were so much better back in the day. They were, brother. They were. They were. All right, folks. We are at 85 minutes, is it? An hour and 25 minutes. Please get your final questions, comments, and concerns in the chat. We'll be going off the air in just a few minutes. I'm going to go home, have some dinner with my lady, watch a few shows, and get some rest. You know, I've been just highly motivated to really deep clean the house lately. Like, I got so caught up. I'm still producing at a pretty high level, but I was producing like twice what I've been producing this past month. I was just working so much on YouTube that I didn't have time to do my normal cleaning, and it kind of got backed up a little bit. So I'm just working extra hard to get clean and spotless, and just give my lady and her dogs and take care of the house, keep it clean, you know. Just doing the best I can with what I got. Anyway, thank you to everyone that was here. I know we only had a few people chatting, and we've had maybe around 20 or 30 people watching the show. It's all good. Got a lot of love for all of you. And smash the thumbs up, says Jigwog. Yes, please smash the thumbs up. Please share this out. A lot of love for all of you. More content is coming soon. I'm also going to start to work on the main channel. I've been meaning to do that. I haven't put out content on the main channel in about 3 months, so I got to get on there, because you can't go longer than 6 months without doing content, or YouTube will remove you from the YouTube Partner Program. And that channel has been monetized for 4.5 years. This one almost 2 years. So, you know, I like to keep my channels in good standing. I love this background here. This is fantastic. I also got to do my beard soon too. But anyway, love all of you. Thank you to everyone that was here. If you want to donate to support the channel, you can do so even once we're off the air. You can donate via Cash App or PayPal. Links are below in the description. PayPal.me/Coach Eli. Cash App, hashtag $ the real Coach Eli. And on the pre-recorded videos and live stream replays, look for the super thanks heart. You can send a paid highlighted comment through Google and YouTube system, just like a super chat, but it's on the pre-recorded or live stream replays. Now, on the current live stream replay, it may take anywhere from 2 to 12 hours to show up the super thanks. If you want to send a super thanks before this stream finishes processing, go to the previous video and do it there. Donations are greatly appreciated, but they are not required. And with that being said, have a good one, folks. Take care. And as always, please be good to each other.